What's up, everybody? My name is Archeagus, and today we're taking a first look at the demo for BeyondHelix, a terminal-based investigation game from Bruno Eiterer. And I really hope I'm getting that name correct. Bruno, I apologize if I messed up your last name. So Bruno reached out to me directly and asked if I would take a look after my recent HackHub videos. And based on the Steam page, this seems like a good fit for the channel. But I want to frame this carefully. BeyondHelix does not try to challenge real-world security and hacking knowledge. It is actually billed as a terminal investigation game. So the challenge is in reading through the information, identifying the evidence, following clues, and understanding what the system is trying to tell you. In other words, this is less hacking and more digital archaeology. So let's see what the demo has for us. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in and get started with the actual game. So we're going to new game. There's slot 0. Okay. Machine IP 192.168.0.19. These are the available commands. Cat. So that displays the contents of a text file. CD changes the current directory. Connect connects to a remote machine. Help displays the help menu. LS lists the files and directories in the current directory. All right, let's list the files we have available to us. We have downloads and mbox. These both look like directories. So let's CD downloads. And we've got a terminal cheat sheet.txt. So let's cat terminal. And we can use tab to auto select for us. Hi, fellow beginner terminal user. Below I list some valuable tips to use the terminal. Help displays the available commands. Tab, autocomplete command of file directories. Up key goes back in one command in history. Down key goes forward. To go back to the previous directory, the parent directory, use cd ... Okay, so let's go back and let's check out the mbox folder. We have a confidential message. Redacted. We are in need of your services again. Recently, a company went defunct, and we need to recover sensitive information from it. We've already set up a temporary machine for you to connect and start your work. You can reach it at 192.168.15.0. Once connected, check the tasks terminal for further instructions. All right, so we need to connect 192.168.15.0. Now, since these addresses start on the same subnet, we're both on 192.168. That means we're inside the same router. I'm not sure if that's meant to be the case or if this is just using these addresses arbitrarily, but normally you wouldn't be hacking into other devices on your same subnet unless you had already hacked into this subnet previously. All right, establishing connection. Oh, all right. In this terminal, you can interact with the files in the machine. You can switch to the tasks and the database terminals by pressing Control-Tab. Okay, so let's say that we're doing this sequentially. I'm going to Control-Tab. I'm assuming this is the task. So what are the commands we have here? List lists your current tasks. Solves a task. All right, so let's list our task. We see you've accepted the mission. First, power maintenance is required. Provide the input needed to make PowerBot execute maintenance. Every terminal has their own PowerBot instance. Check the manual located at the PowerBot folder. All right. We're going to Control-Tab. Now we're in the database terminal. We have gets a database entry. Help displays the help manual. Search for database entries and quit. So let's do an open search. So we have to search for something specific. All right, we need to come back to that. Control-Tab. What do we have here? We have welcome.txt. Welcome to BeyondHelix. If this is your first day and you're feeling a little lost, don't worry. To switch terminals, press Control-Tab. You can check out your available tasks in the task terminal by using the list command. All right. So we need to provide the input needed to make PowerBot execute maintenance. So let's check out PowerBot. Here's the manual. That's exactly what we need. Welcome to the PowerBot manual. This robot is responsible for maintaining labs and workstations' power infrastructure. It is commanded by hexadecimal inputs. To combine multiple inputs at once, surround them with double quotes, and separate them by spaces. Okay, so for example, to execute a planned power upgrade, we must first power off the station. So to get the required combination is 0x02 space 0x07, power off, and execute hardware upgrade. So where do we execute this PowerBot? It's not a command here, right? Yeah, it's not a command here. PowerBot 0207. It's not executed without that, I don't think. Yeah. All right. So do we do it with solve? Solve, task number, solution. So solve 1, 0x02, 0x07. Incorrect solution. All right, so what are they asking us to do? We see you have accepted the mission. First, power maintenance is required. Provide the input needed to make PowerBot execute maintenance. All right, so let's go back. Let's take a look at PowerBot again. If we're going to execute maintenance, I don't know if 3 or 4 are the required steps. I can assume both are required. So if we solve task 1, we would say 0x03, 0x04. That's maintenance. Task 1 completed. Okay, so we've completed task 1. The list is updated to task 2 now. Check which modules are failing in the system. Input them separated by spaces. The system health monitor is located at shared monitoring. All right. Let's go back to the directory. ls, let's go back out. Let's go to shared monitoring. Yep. Nothing else to see. All right. Health check text, power report texts. Check which modules are failing in the system. I'm not sure which one we need to see. Critical modules failing. Total live modules 473. Total down modules 3. Down modules are 7, 17, and 39. And if we see the power report, average power, so this has nothing to do with it. So we can go back, solve for task 2 with 7. Input them separated by spaces. 7, 17, 39. Task 2 complete. All right, find out what system is causing power failures. All right, so going back to the power report down here, we have a lab controller, average power, maximum power, facilities, bio, bots, data center, factory. Okay, that's the power report. Look for odd behavior in monitoring. Okay, so I'm going to assume bio is our outlier. 100 to 250, 10 to 15, 50 to 100, 1500 to 2000, 5000 to 7000. Those are all within a reasonable deviation. Going from an average power of 50 to a maximum of 10,000, that is a huge range. As a systems engineer, I would call that out as unusual or odd. So we're going to say bio. Solve 3, bio. Task 3 completed. Okay. List. Task 4. We have to understand what kind of operation was being run. Find out who's part of the bio team. All right, so this might be where search comes in. BioStaff, bio department. Search. Can't autocomplete that. I guess it would help if we recalled our messages. Okay, so get database entry for BioStaff. All right, we have Adam, the chief scientist, Anna, the AI specialist, Sophia, lead engineer, Luca, software engineer, and Daniel, hardware engineer. And we have their IPs. We have to understand what kind of operation was being run. Find out who's part of the bio team. Okay, so we know who the members are. Are we to provide that? All for Adam, Anna, Sophia, Luca, and Daniel. Task 4 completed. The AI specialist machine should contain valuable information. Gain access to it by discovering its password. All right. Let's go back to our search. Can we search for Anna? Let's go back to the bio department. Bio department is responsible for BeyondHelix's advanced life research, including consciousness, thoughts, and artificial life. All right. Okay, so we've exhausted everything else in this system, I think. So we're going to try and connect. Well, let's go back and get that BioStaff. So we're trying to get the password from the AI specialist's machine. So if we connect 192.168.15.7, not authorized to access this machine. What about the chief? I don't think any of these will work, but won't know for sure until we try. 1.2.3. Okay. So the hardware engineer is lacking security. What do we got? We got Mbox. We got golfing this week and hardware power and an out folder. Let's just go through them. Daniel, me and Jack are going golf on Saturday to kick off our anniversary celebration. I'm in Daniel Oxay. So this is just an exchange. Go ahead and cat. Hardware probe, hardware and power. Also cannot tab. Ooh. All right, Anna, the hardware is totally up to the correct specs. You cannot expect miracles to be done to cover for your own lack of capacity. You need to figure out how to something you're the required how to something your something require less power. How to make your tech require less power, I'm assuming. Let's see. So this was to Anna. Then to Sophia, hardware power requirements. I can't believe she is still asking about that. We're focused on the implementations of the next phase. Maybe she should stop waiting for ridiculous poems. Maybe she should stop writing her ridiculous poems and focus on her work. I found another one around the office today, Sorrow 4 or whatever the number was. They aren't even that good. Why does she insist on it? Sorrow 4 might be a password. Though I sided with you earlier, it was only on the project's project's best interest. Please refrain from talking about your colleagues like that again. Who knows? We know you're stuck on achieving the required specs for next phase, but that is no reason to take it out on anyone. In fact, her insistence on her poetry could teach you something. Have you tried improving the something configuration for the hardware instead of throwing everything out and rebuilding from scratch every time? Improving the existing configuration. Okay. So that's the power requirement. And then there's an out folder. Initial hardware assembly. Still can't autocomplete these. All right. Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm pleased to announce that the initial hardware assembly is complete. We have now enough capacity to run basic training and inference with all the required safeguards against failure and data corruption. All right, so this is for AI, basic training and inference of an AI. Great job, Daniel. I'll ask Luca and Anis to start the development next week. I see nothing else here that could be indicative of a password. So we're going to guess 5 is Soro 4. Was it Soro 4? Or was it Soro 5? What was it? It was Soro 4. Maybe it's just Soro. Task 5 completed. Manage machine unlocked. All right, so now we can connect to 192.168.15.7. Connected. All right. What is our task now? Find out the name of the project the team was working on. Important inbox message research test. Let's take a look at research. All right, tab is working again. Research log, Singularity math skills. Singularity was able to solve all addition and multiplication level 1 tasks. The next step is to work on text interpretation. Wait, really? You're going straight from some, okay. Oh, that's quite the leap. So it looks like Singularity is our best bet. All right. No more tasks are available in this demo. Please consider providing any feedback you have in the Steam forums or leaving a review. Thank you for playing. Okay, so this is just a very quick and basic introduction to the game. So that was the demo for BeyondHelix. And I think the most important thing is to judge it by what it actually seems to be trying to do. What it's doing is using the terminal as a puzzle language. It gives you a limited set of commands, a controlled environment, and a sequence of clues. Then it asks whether you can read carefully between the lines, interpret the information, and connect the evidence together. And that is why the phrase digital archaeology fits so well for me. We're not breaking into a system in the traditional sense. We're actually excavating from the ruins of one. We're moving through old directories, messages, database records, research logs, and machine connections, trying to reconstruct what happened and what this team was actually trying to build. The demo is clearly early. The command set is small. The tasks are guided, and there are places where the interface could still grow. But the structure works. The task terminal gives you an objective. The database gives you human context. The main terminal gives you the machine level evidence. And by the end, the answer is not something you brute force. It is something you reason your way into. That is the part I find promising. The full game does not need to become a realistic hacking simulator to be interesting. It needs to deepen the investigation, give us some more ambiguous clues, provide more machines, more conflicting records, more human context, and more moments where the player has to stop and think about what the system is really trying to say. So my first impression is cautiously positive and optimistic. BeyondHelix is not really hacking, and it doesn't need to be. It is investigation through a terminal, and if the full game builds on that idea, this could become a very compelling way to tell a mystery for players who enjoy reading and consuming information through systems, following evidence, and piecing together what happened from what was left behind. My name is Archeagus. I thank you for watching my video. Until next time, be safe.